When you think of stories of samurai and acts of honor, avenging a lord's death, bravery, the Bushido, etc., well, one of the most famous stories of all, the 47 Ronin, ended right here in this temple, Sengaku-ji.
Sengaku-ji is actually quite an old temple, but let's get one thing straight to begin with. I'm not here to talk about the movie. It's got nothing to do with the 47 Ronin movie that Keanu Reeves recently made.
The first thing to note is that there are two sides to the story. One is based on evidence that still exists, and the other one is the widespread fictionalized version of it, which is called Chushingura. Fictionalized, I mean, there's still an element of truth in it, of course, but it is definitely playing to the audience a lot more. And the Chushingura version, the fictionalized version, is the one that we all most commonly know, the one that we can read about, and the one that the Japanese public absolutely loved and adored, and restored a bit of that Bushido pride in society. So the story goes a little bit like this. Now, this is the Chushingura story. Lord Asano was the leader of a domain, a liege lord called a daimyo, and he was the guest of Lord Kira, and Kira apparently wasn't a very nice guy, and he was offended in some way by Asano. We're not quite sure. But anyway, Lord Kira then really focused his attention on Asano and offended him in a pretty grave way, enough to make Asano draw his blade and try and attack Kira. Now, that's an offence in that time, that era. It was an offence to draw a blade in Edo, and especially in the presence of one of the shogun's retainers. And his punishment was to commit seppuku, and seppuku is the same as harakiri, and that is to ritually commit suicide. Lord Asano had plenty of samurai, 300 or 400 or so, but 47 of them decided to swear an oath and avenge the death of their lord. The way they did it was different. They dispersed into the society around Lord Kira's residence, I guess you say, in Edo, and they took up different jobs. They disguised themselves as tradesmen, as monks, as a drunk, as merchants, etc. Oishi himself disguised himself as a drunk, and he frequented the brothels, and he led a pretty disgusting life, so to speak, but that was all part of the disguise. After 2 years of this, they banded together, and they thought that this was the right time to avenge their lord's death. It had been sufficient time that the spies were not interested in looking at them anymore, and no one would think much of it. So very early one morning, they banded together, and they attacked Kira's mansion, and they killed Lord Kira. They took his head and came here to Sengaku-ji. And why Sengaku-ji? Well, this is where Lord Asano was buried. They then gave all of their money, remaining money, to the temple and told them to please bury them in a fitting manner next to their lord once their punishment had been given. Knowing full well what they'd gotten themselves into, they knew that their punishment was going to be to commit suicide, to commit seppuku, and this is where they carried out that act. And so in actual fact 46 of the Ronin are buried here. One was pardoned and went back home and lived until he was 87 years old. So they are buried right next to their lord Asano. So why did people love this story so much? Well, it was during a time of peace. Not much was happening. There weren't many stories of noble acts and acts of honor, etc. It really it raised their hopes that the legend of the Bushido, the way of the warrior, still existed in Japan. That code of honor still existed. Okay, that's the Chushingura story. That's the kabuki play. Now, in the last 5 to 10 years, scholars have been stripping back that story and trying to tell the truth, so they say. Now, according to that side of the story, a few of the characters were not as honest and not as good as they turn out to be in the play, so to speak. For example, Lord Asano, he wasn't exactly such a nice guy and a bit of a player, so to speak. And also Oishi, they described him as being an actual drunk, facing many demons, and quite a psychopath, really, thinking about revenge all of the time. And, of course, the last thing was that the 46 Ronin didn't actually commit seppuku, but in fact were executed which is a massive dishonour to samurai. Now, I don't know about you, but I know which side of the story I like. And that's the story that I think most people would like as well.